video, I want to show you how I map my eyebrows, especially when we have asymmetric brows that are a bit more difficult to map and make symmetrical. So this was a recent client of mine, and this was her finished result. So as you can see, with the machine hair stroke technique, we were able to bring her eyebrows looking a lot more symmetrical while still keeping it really nice and natural. All right, so this is how I map my eyebrows. So the tools that I use are a thread, some white face paint, a simple caliper, a white makeup crayon, and a black flathead crayon. So to start with, I always have the client sat up facing me and using the thread which has been scraped through the white paint. I first start by finding the center point of her head. I then judge where the start of the brow should go, and I judge how thick the start of the brow should be. So I'll use a white pen to example where the thread would go. So to start with the center of the head, always use the bridge of the nose, and you're trying to find the center point in between the eyes here. Okay, so that looks like a good center point. So with the thread, I would make a straight line here. And then for the start of the brow, if there's no hair at the start, I'm not a fan of adding too much tattoo here, but I just use my experience of what I think will look nice. I use the eyebrow hair as a guide and the eye as a guide. So that looks like a good starting point to me. And then using my eye for the distance, I copy that over to the other side. That looks about right to me. Okay, so at this point, I would then get the caliper and then just make sure that the distance between these 2 points was the same, which it is. That looks good to me. Okay, now at this point, I also mark where I think the top and the bottom of the brow should be. So I would get my thread, and then I would just mark on here where I think the start of the brow should go. Now, when we've got asymmetry, so you can see this brow here sits much higher than this brow. I always start with the lowest brow, and I don't take it any lower. We bring it right up to where the hair on the lowest brow starts, and then we take it up to the highest point of the highest brow. So if I use my ruler, because I can't use a thread here. So I'll put this at angle of 0. Okay. So let me line up her eyes. Okay. So with the thread, we want to go to the lowest point of the lowest brow and with the thread, I would put a mark in here. And then we want to take it to the highest point of the highest brow, which is here. So we'd put a mark in there. Okay, so that determines the thickness of the brow, and I'm happy with that. I think that looks nice. So next I would mark out the tail, where that goes. Now with the thread, you can go from the lip, middle of the lip, to the edge of the eye to mark where the tail finishes. Often I'll just use my eye and I'll just guess where I think will look nice on the client, and often I take it longer because clients always want to have a longer tail, I find. So let's just call that here. Get rid of my ruler. Okay, so let's say we want the tail to finish here. And again, with the arch point, you can use your thread and use your pupil. So from the middle of the lip to the edge of the pupil, and that would mark where your arch point should go. But again, I just often just use my eye, and I can see where the highest point of the brow is and where it would look nice on the client. So let's put that in there. So that's our arch point. Okay. And so to copy these points across to the other side, I would use my caliper. Now I would normally dip one of these points in the white ink, and so I could make a mark on the opposite side. So for example, I always take it from the middle of the brow I don't use this point, always use the middle to the arch point, and then you just copy that over. And then you would mark the skin with the paint that's on the tip of here. But we don't have the paint on there, so I will just mark it with this. So that's that. Oh. So that's our arch point there. And then the same with the tail. And then copy it over to that side. Okay, good. So now we have all our main points. So the next bit I do is the top of the brow. So when there's asymmetry, again, we only want to take it as to the, I use the highest brow as the highest point, all right? So with the thread, I would only take it from, I would take it from this point here to this point here to the very top of the hair. Not any higher, because if we take it too much higher, then this one has to be really high, and then we're having to fill loads of empty space with tattoo, which we don't want to do if we want a natural result. So with the thread, I don't have a thread, so I'll use the ruler on here. From the top of the front of the brow, this point here, to the arch point, you want to give it a bit of height to give her a nice lift, and then you'd put your line in there with the thread. Okay. Now, to copy this over to the other side, I would stand back, and with my thread, using the eyes, I would move up and then mark a straight line on the forehead using my eye. And then I would get a symmetry app out, take a photo, and on the symmetry app, I'd be able to see if this line across the top that I'd made was straight. So let's do that now with the ruler. So I want to put the ruler at a 0 angle, so we know that that's straight. Okay, and then I'm going to use her eyes to line up the ruler. So I'm using her pupils here to get the brows as straight as possible. Okay, and then we can mark that point here, and then that's going to be the top of that brow. All right, good. So now we know that this point matches this point. I didn't draw the line, let me draw the line. So with the thread, I would have a straight line across the top. Let's just put that line in for you so you can see. Yeah, there. And with the symmetry app, we'd take a photo and then just make sure that that line across the top was straight, and her face was in line. All right, good. So now we would mark the tail. Again, using the thread, I would just go from this point and I use the brow bone and use the natural hair that's there as a guide to see where the tail should sit. But I'm just gonna draw a line in here with the ruler. And then same on the other side. Again, I just use my eye. I stand back and then I see where this should sit on the client. I think maybe a bit lower. Right, let's try this line and see. It's been glitchy. Ah, keep still. All right, let me just put that line in there. That looks too high to me, but let's see. So with the symmetry app again, I would check if the tail finishes at the same point, which it doesn't. You can see that that one's a bit higher, so let's just adjust that a bit. Let's put that line in there. And then we want the tail to go there. All right, good. So once I've got these points on, for the underline, I freestyle that with the white crayon at this point. Don't forget the client's still sitting up, so I would get the white crayon and just freehand this line underneath. So we want to give her a nice soft front. To me, it's irrelevant how thick the line is. It's more to do with the bare skin in between. So this is always a really rough sketch for me. Okay, that looks good. And then do that on the other side. Don't forget the client sitting up, so you can always stand back. Keep looking at the clients. At this point, stand back. Just make sure that you're going in the right direction. Everything looks like it's going to be symmetrical. Remember, it doesn't matter how thick the line is. You're just concentrating on the bare skin, not how thick your lines are that you're drawing. All right. So let's take a look. This looks good to me. So at this point, I would get the caliper and I would measure these areas here, make sure they were the same, and then I'd measure the middle of the brow, and yeah, that all looks good to me. So once we've got this, the outline, I would then show that to the client, make sure she was happy. To proceed on to the next step, which would be to draw the hair strokes, the hair stroke pattern. So to do that, again, I use my thread. So at this point, I lie the client down because it's easier for me to sketch the strokes when she's lying down. And I then divide the brow into a grid. So let me show you what I mean. So using this point and this point, we halve it. And then we halve it again, and then we halve it again, and then we'll halve this section too. Same on this side. Between this point and this point, we halve it, just using your eye. And then halve it again, and then halve it again, and then halve that section, okay. And now we can draw our hair stroke pattern. So I hope you found this video useful. That's how I map my eyebrows. I will do a video with a real client one day, I promise. But if there's any questions that you want me to record a video to answer, let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to record a video for you. So don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified when I have more videos published. So until next time, I will see you then.